Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Earl here with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame. Oh.
We're looking at Toejam and Earl.
Jim, I made the mistake. I called you Earl.
Yes, you did. I get it. Fat joke.
What?
Earl.
He just likes burgers, Jim.
Oh,
You like burgers.
I do enjoy burgers. And ice cream.
So, let's just get into it.
Released in 1991, this was developed by Joshua Vorsanger Productions and published by Sega. It was a Sega Genesis exclusive. Didn't come out in Japan though, so that's a little weird. Anyway, this is a classic series at this point. Even though it doesn't have a ton of entries, this is the one that started it all. It's a roguelike. So, if you don't know what this game's about by now, you're about to find out.
The graphics. As Jim will get into, this is a procedurally generated game. So whenever you see games like this, especially this early, you know they're not going to have a ton of variety when it comes to the maps itself and items or characters. But they still manage to pull off a decent amount of enemies or friendlies that you're going to run into when you're exploring Earth looking for those lost pieces of your ship. The animations all really reflect the style of the game that's going for. It's that 90s hip-hop, really out there, goofy style. So when you run, it's really exaggerated. When you jump, it's really cartoonish. I just really appreciate all the little touches that this game did. One of the things that impressed me the most is this isn't truly an isometric game. It's more like a 3/4 perspective on a 2D world.
Brian, stop reading Wikipedia.
It's the best way to describe it, Jim. But the fact is, you are moving fairly slow through the majority of the game, and then in moments when you get the rockets or your skates, you can move really fast, and there's almost no slowdown, and you can have a lot of enemies on the screen, and still nothing really seemed to disturb the actual performance. Plus, there's a lot of areas like this where land bridges will just create out of nowhere. I appreciate the fact that these were implemented so smoothly, and just the colors and the crazy ass designs. Like, I don't know what kind of drugs these guys were on. The people you fight against and Toejam and Earl themselves, they're just friggin' insane. So I gave it a 7, Jim gave it a 6. When it comes to beer, I'm gonna add 1 for whatever the hell that guy was smoking when he made these characters.
The sound. Alright, let's start with the star attraction of this game, and that is the music. Because, let's face it, the main title track is one of the catchiest tracks of the goddamn 16-bit era. Once you start to hear it, it will be stuck in your head for weeks. You know the song. Doop 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 doo 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 doop doop doo doo doop doo 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 doo. Ah!
Just like I told you before, I am so tired of hearing that song.
But Brian, it's so catchy.
Yeah, after the first 25 minutes, and then it's like, okay, we need something else.
And that's in part the problem with the game is, given its nature as a roguelike, you're only going to have a set number of music tracks. I think there's about 5 in total, so you'll be going through a couple different levels and eventually a song will change over. But after a while, you will be hearing the same music again and again and again and again. So it's a bit disappointing, but I understand. At least it's really well composed. Nice combination of jazz and funk and fusion, all that kind of stuff. The sound effects in the game are okay. There's some digitized voice which can range from pretty good to downright annoying with it. Yes. But outside of that, the sound effects are almost weirdly minimal. Like, you get the digitized telephone sound, which is always a godsend to hear. And you get the different sounds like when you level up or for different items, but it's very simplistic, but again, given the nature of the game, it makes sense. But it's still overall nothing too crazy special. So I gave it a 7, Brian gave it a 6. And when it comes to beer, I'm just going to give it 1 beer for doop 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 doop. I don't deserve this.
The control. As Jim pointed out, one of the main things you're going to be doing in this game is walking and just moving around. Sure, you can attack if you pick up items like the tomatoes or slingshots, and you can use special items, but really, you're not attacking, you're not dodging, you're just walking to and from places. And here's our biggest problem. The game works fine, but it feels kind of clunky and kind of like you're in mud, which I would have accepted if the entire game feels like that, but The second you get those rocket shoes and you move fast and you see how much smoother and how cleaner the game runs with that, it makes you all of a sudden feel envious and always wanting that. The rest of the game, it's not that once again, the inputs are fine, but you just feel so clunky, and that's a big problem. Because you're on this isometric 3/4 view, as I pointed out, you're kind of always moving in 90 degrees, and it's not that you can't truly move diagonally, it's just a little finicky when it happens. The only other issue I had is a few times I've accidentally hit my button to use a special item, or I tried to use a special item and it just didn't seem to happen right away. It could have been an error on my part because I was drinking too many beers, or it could just be that the game is just a bit sluggish. Either way, we both gave it 6s. It's fine, and since you are able to play through the whole game and beat it, and it's not too complicated, we couldn't ding it too much. So, when it comes to beers, I'm just going to add 2, because if the main point of your game is walking around, you should have really nailed that down. Having too many gyms on your team will do that to you.
Alright.
Damn it!
The gameplay. So, like I've mentioned a ton of times at this point, this game is a roguelike, and for those of you who don't know, Rogue was like the first procedurally generated dungeon crawler kind of game, which this essentially is, though there is a twist. So the main gimmick of the game, instead of combat and making your way through a dungeon and killing things, is surviving and getting the pieces of your ship back together. Story-wise, you're Toejam Earl, you're in your ship, you fly all around, you crash land on Earth, and you gotta get all the ship's pieces back together so you can get back to Funkatron. Simple enough. To do that, you go from level to level through a series of elevators to get you onto different pieces of land. The different pieces of land will, reveal themselves the more you walk around, and you have an overall map that can help you as you go from level to level. When you're going that, you're unlocking points by discovering new pieces of the map and getting new presents and opening them up. And until you learn what every single present does, that's a bit risky, because while you have some like the Icarus rings and the high tops that can really help you out, then there's the lightning or the electrocutions that will instantly kill you. So there's a nice give and take there when it comes to all the items and the item management in this game. Leveling up is key though, because getting more and more lives and more health, it comes in so handy towards the later levels because the enemies become vicious. There can be certain times where you just get stuck in almost a kill animation, and there's one point where I had a friggin' lawnmower guy take out like 3 lives in 30 seconds because I couldn't move. It was some grade A BS right there, but that's just kind of the risk you take. The game starts off very easy, and then it does give you a nice little progression into the absolute insanity of levels 21 and over. So, certain levels will have pieces of the ship in which you have to collect 10, but there won't be a piece of the ship on every level, so then you're making a mad dash to try to get off these levels as quickly as possible, or you can use that time to explore around and try to get more presents to help you out later on. So, the game really can be played however you want to do it. You have a very few offensive weapons, including for tomatoes, so you can either throw tomatoes or slingshot them. But for the most part, controlling these weapons is kind of clunky and almost not worth it. For the most part, you're just going to be trying to avoid things. And plus, there's some sleeping people that you can sneak past if you hold an A if you're not having an item equipped, so it gives you options there. Multiplayer is one of the things people love the most about this game, and it definitely makes life a little bit easier because you can split off and go all around the map and just cover your ground so much faster, even though you'll be sharing your presence, but at least you can see where everyone is on the map, and, one guy can go off and try to find the elevator, one can find a piece of the ship. That kind of give and take right there. The game's just so much going on with it, even though it's a little unforgiving at times, because you only have a set number of lives until you gain some more, but there's no continue. So once you're out of lives, you're done. There's no continue, your game's over, try again. With all that being said, it's the kind of game that is so minimal on action too that it might not be for everyone, so that's why we both gave it 6s. And when it comes to beer, I'm going to add 2 beers for the complete randomness of it and for the style of these characters, because I love how they're supposed to represent, typical American life on Earth in the early 90s.
Jim, would you say it's like representing us?
How would you say that, Brian?
Oh, you're Earl. We've established because you like burgers and ice cream.
Yes.
And I'm Toejam because I got the 3 legs. Do you want to see?
No. Put that away.
All right. The Originality. Holy shit. I don't have to speak very much. I think Jim and I have expressed our thoughts that this game is really kind of It's unique, it's one of a kind, and the characters, the sounds, shit, even the gameplay to a degree. You're not going to see many games like this. Add on top of that the procedural generation that only a few dungeon crawlers or roguelike games had before this, and this is pretty much one of the most unique games you're going to play back in the day. So, at the end of the day, we both had to give it 9s. I've already commented, I don't know what was in this person's mind to make this world, but hats off to them. I'm not even going to add a beer.
Their playability. This is another one we can keep short. It's procedurally generated, even though there is a standard set mode that you can also play too to get to learn the game. There's multiplayer, and really, if there are multiple endings, then it would be a perfect 10, but I gave it a 9 and Brian gave it an 8. And when it comes to beer, you really don't need any.
So overall, this game just has a shit ton of character, and it's basically what you imagine when you think of the 90s, especially for video games at the time. There's a lot to really like about this game, but it has plenty of faults.
Yeah, it's not a perfect experience, and in a lot of ways, this is really a game that you're either going to really like or you're going to kind of hate. Because at its core, not a lot's going on. You could almost call it a walking simulator, because you're just kind of walking around. A lot of item management, a lot of clunky-ish controls. Feels like it's fighting against you a little bit, but somehow the whole package comes together into something just so unique that I can't help but like it. With its faults, even though it can be incredibly frustrating because really with the procedural generation, it just comes down to luck of the draw.
It actually makes sense why you like it. It's something about boring walking, item management, and I guess almost puzzle. Son of a bitch!
Haha, right up my alley.
I'm changing all my scores to 1s.
No, Brian, be fake.
So when it comes to scores, I actually gave it a 6. Jim gave it a 7. When we combined all of our scores together, it rounds out to a 6.5, which is pretty fair for this game. As Jim said, there may be some people who absolutely hate this style, and to be honest, it definitely wore me down, but I still like the general character of the game, and I really appreciate the fact that it's kind of like you don't have to think much when playing this. Sure, it can be a pain in the ass, but at the end of the day, there is plenty to like.
And there will be plenty of times where you'll be on the edge of your seat because you have no lives left and just a little pube hair of health, and you're trying to make it through those next couple pieces without just completely ruining your game, so.
But what if you're as smooth as a turtle down there, Jim? Can't use pube hairs then, can you?
Well,
why can't we be more inclusive of people with no
smooth
pubes?
as a turtle cock.
Damn it. All right, guys. So, till next time, cheers.
Cheers.
When it comes to beer pairing, I decided to go with the Funk Brewing Company Citrus IPA. Obviously, I had to find a beer with a plenty of funk to match this goofy-ass game, and this beer has a lot of flavor, coming in at 6.9%. You're going to get just drunk enough to appreciate the uniqueness that is Toejam Earl. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, or better yet, why not subscribe? Till next time, guys, cheers.